Lin Yi appears to complain to the company manager, saying that he still hasn't done what she asks. He gets scared, and a box full of books and items falls next to him. The manager, Lily Yu, appears with an angry face and a sinister aura, saying, "Get out." Lin Yi takes the box and leaves, muttering, "What a world. I take my business so seriously. Now I'm embarrassed that I didn't give the leaders a gift." His cell phone starts ringing. It's Sissy Liu, his girlfriend. "Lin Yi, honey, let me tell you something. Today Lin Yi opens a look of astonishment when he hears what Sissy Liu said. Sissy Liu, "Lin Yi, I want to finish." He becomes desperate. The box that Lily Yu threw at his feet falls out of his hand, and he asks Sissy why she ended it so out of the blue. Lin Yi asks, "Sissy, are you seeing someone else?" Sissy continues, "You don't have to come to my birthday party, and never call me again." Lin is apathetic, standing in the middle of the empty corridor. The box that Lily Yu threw to him is on the floor again, all overturned. Lin continues listening to what Sissy still has to say. "Sissy, what if I'm leaving? I've been with you for so long, and you still seem like a poor man. I don't want to waste all my youth on you. Goodbye." Lin enters the elevator, looking straight ahead with a droopy look. "What a horrible day. I lost my job, and on top of that, I was kicked by my ex." A hologram appears in front of Lin and is called Lady Ling Y System. The girl welcomes him to the full career experience system. She says she will be his servant. Lin initially asks, "Complete career system." Then Ling Y explains, "Master, you can try a new profession every week, and upon completing each task, you will be rewarded. I will help you become a global leader." Lin is almost turned off with so much joy. He throws his ex-manager's box in the air and shouts, "Is this the legendary system? My time has come." A system message appears, offering congratulations to Lin Yi. He wins a blah blah driver registration package, 10 million yuan, 100% control of the Peninsula Hotel, and a Pagani Windchild worth 30 million yuan. Lin cheers up along with Lady Ling. "Lin, wow, this package is worth it, even if I'm just a driver for life." Lady Ling, "Master, we can only try one profession per week. It's not forever." Lin accepts the offer, so he can be a newbie every week, always change professions, and still make a lot of money from it. Lady Ling charms Lin as she says that the hotel must be claimed by him and the Pagani Windchild is parked in the Koyang Group's parking lot. She promptly gives him the car key, saying that it is in Area C, Lot 22. Lin feels his cell phone vibrate with a message saying that his account received 10 million yuan and that he was registered as the owner of blah blah, a long-distance ride-sharing platform company, different from Uber, only for the rich. Lin realizes that the car is parked underground in the building, according to what Lady Ling told him, and he seems a little incredulous at what happened. It really seems like a dream. Arriving underground, Lin says that Area C is a place where only the biggest names park. From afar, he sees a girl with long pink hair with the hood of the car open. She looks like Jai Qingyan, president of the Jai family. "Jai? Strange. Why don't you care, Lin?" "Miss Jai, did something happen?" Jai looks at him with a startled face while picking up her hair, confused. "Jai. You're Lin Yi from the sales department, right? Oh, my car doesn't want to start." Lin smiles at her and offers her a ride. Jai accepts, saying that she will go to Aru, an urban renewal agency, and that she is quite late. She thanks him. In the background, a person approaches, calling Miss Jai Kitty. It's a blonde boy who arrives, putting his hand on Miss Jai's shoulder. She looks at him in amazement as he says, "An employee like him shouldn't have a good car. It's better to ride with me in my sports car. I'll give you a ride." Miss Jai quickly leaves the boy's embrace, who was almost holding her hand, and leans against the car, startled and somewhat angry. She tells him to stay away from her and that she does not accept this persecution. The boy's name is Lai Yunhang, and he says he expected her reaction, but he insists, asking to let him give her a ride and that his expensive new car costs 2 million yuan. Lin confidently walks in between the two. Miss Jai crosses her arms and looks at Lai Yunhang with disgust. Lin, there's no need to worry, Mr. Lai. I'm going to give Miss Jai a ride. My car is out front in lot 22. Lai Yunhang remains in disbelief that a mere employee has a nice car. He says that it must be a broken car and that it would ruin Miss Jai's status once they see her inside. So again, he offers her a ride. Lai Yunhang maintains a confident face, thinking that what he has to offer is better than Lin. Miss Jai storms off towards lot 22, saying, "Get out of here. What's wrong with a broken car? I don't mind." Lin accompanies her, still insisting on going after her despite receiving several no's. When they arrive at lot 22, they get a huge shock. A 30 million yuan Pagani is parked. The car is so beautiful it shines. Lin, bright and excited, smiles and tells Mr. Lai that this is his car. Lai is even more amazed. He doesn't seem to believe Lin's words and asks him if he's joking with him because this car is worth a lot of money. There's no way an employee can have a car. Cutting off Mr. Lai's sentence, Lin takes the Pagani's key from his pocket, pressing a button to open the door for Miss Jai and tells her to get in the car, and he will take the general manager. He disdains Lai, asking him why he wants to take her in such a cheap car. Lai Yunhang, deep in thought, marvels at the car, noting that it costs 30 million and is a limited edition, so exclusive that he can't even secure an appointment to view it in a store. As Lin prepares to start the car, Mr. Lai leans against the window. With a muffled voice and a regretful expression, he says, "Brother, I didn't recognize greatness when I saw it. Take me for a ride with you." Lin dismisses him, saying, "Leave. You're not good enough to ride with me." He starts the car, and the powerful roar of the engine scares Mr. Lai. The wind from the departing car makes his clothes sway. Miss Jai, surprised, asks if the car truly belongs to Lin, as she had thought he was just a minor employee in the sales department. Lin looks at her and confirms, "Yes, the car is mine. I'm actually a wealthy man looking to experience the life of the less fortunate." Lin smiles and asks Miss Jai to open the blah blah app and asks her to become his first customer. Miss Jai, excited as Lin said, takes out her cell phone, opens the app, and says this is interesting and feels very honored by Lin's request. She makes the request for the ride. They arrive at the Urban Renewal Authority, and two very large buildings are in the background as the Pagani stops in front of them. When leaving, Miss Jai goes to Lin's window showing her cell phone screen, telling Lin that the ride is paid. She turns her back to him, smiles, and says a very excited goodbye. Lady Ling appears on Lin's shoulder. She winks at him while placing her body on the boy's shoulder and says, "Congratulations on completing the first ride. You will be rewarded 50,000 proficiency points, and the career completion is at 5%. The current reward is 50 million yuan." Lin is extremely excited about this. He takes out his cell phone and looks at the system interface. There are 50 million for completing just one ride. We see the facade of the Peninsula Hotel at night. It is a very luxurious and well-lit hotel. Inside, a conversation between Yunji and Sissy Liu, Lin Yi's ex-girlfriend, reveals she seems to be with him as her new boyfriend. Yunji is a blonde boy with blue eyes, and Sissy Liu clings to him, saying, "Wow, Yunji, the Peninsula Hotel is 5 stars and one of the best in China. There are several celebrities who come here to organize weddings. I want my birthday party to be held here." Yunji says that everything is in order and that she will do what she wants. He says that it doesn't cost much, just 70 to 80,000 a night for a private room. Sissy Liu hugs Yunji and does as he said, but soon he looks to the side with a look of boredom and contempt. Yunji, "Sissy, isn't that Lin Yi?" Lin enters the front door of the Peninsula Hotel. Seeing the two of them together, he gives a look of unpleasant surprise. Sissy is surprised, asking Lin what he is doing there. She says he is just a poor guy and that not even in his dreams could he get her back just by going to see her there. Lin Yi replies, "Don't be ridiculous, girl. Now I can't come here and spend money. This hotel is average. Yoonji looks at him defiantly, asking him if he's gone crazy. Yoonji, small hotel? Stop talking nonsense. This hotel is 5 stars and is far beyond a poor person like you. Sissy looks back, outraged by Lin's words, and asks the security guards to expel the beggar in front of her. Quickly, several security guards come running to respond to Sissy's request to expel Lin. Yoonji boasts that if Lin doesn't leave, he will be expelled. But something unexpected happens. The security guards bow in front of Lin and say, "Mr. Lin, you have arrived." Sissy and Yoonji are shocked and incredulous at what they just saw. Sissy looks at him worriedly and wonders how it is possible that a rubbish salesman like Lin Yi and with a rubbish profession could still be the owner of the Peninsula Hotel. A secretary bowing before Lin says to him, "Mr. Lin, let's go to the meeting room first. We need to report our performance to you." Lin says it's okay and they can go together. Sissy gets chills and reflects that she lost a very rich man. In the meeting room, the secretary brings several books containing the financial report that he could take a look at. Lin, sitting at the table, is a little afraid to look at the reports and asks them to continue working on the same model, and that he trusts them. Soon there is a knock on the door. Lin says to come in, and a girl comes running, saying that the manager, a girl who is staying at the hotel, will file a complaint against them, and that she cannot be stopped. The secretary asks her what the complaints are, and Lin pays attention to what she will say. Girl who came running, and who has no name, she submitted a car rental request yesterday, but the Mercedes she wanted took priority over the VIPs. Now she doesn't want to accept a replacement car, and she will file a complaint against us. Lin gets up from the table and tells them to continue analyzing the company's finances, and that he will go to room 1704. Arriving at room 1704, where the girl is staying, Lin knocks on the door. Gu Jingshua opens it and is slightly surprised by the boy at her door. "Lin Yi, hello, I am the person in charge of the hotel. We will take care of your matter and make sure you are satisfied." Gu wonders where this guy came from and that he is very handsome. Then she responds to him, saying that it's no big deal. They just need to find another car for her. Lin gets excited, saying that if she prefers, she can rent the Pagani he received from Lady Ling when he accepted the temporary job offer. Gu Jingshua, still enchanted by Lin Yi, looks surreptitiously to the side and says, "What? I can't afford to rent that car. Super sports cars are different. I don't know how to drive one like that yet." Lin Yi pulls the Pagani's key out of his pocket and says, "How about I take you to where you're going?" Gu Jingshua says it's embarrassing to ask, but she's really in a hurry, so she asks him for a few minutes until she can change and join him. Lin enters the room, grabs some water, sits down, and Gu goes to her dressing room. She makes a silhouette of her body and begins to take off her clothes next to Lin, who watches Gu's silhouette with such amazement that his nose bleeds. A few minutes later, Gu Jingshua comes out, with shoes and a very beautiful golden dress, saying, "I'm ready, let's go." Lin gets up and follows the woman. In the main hall, Sissy and Yoonji seem to be having a disagreement. Sissy tells Yoonji to leave, since Lin will return, and she doesn't want him to see her with Yoonji so as not to give the wrong impression. Yoonji comes out and curses her. While leaving, he asks Sissy if she really thought that Lin Yi was still interested in her. He wouldn't even in his dream want her back. Sissy's friend comes to her, saying that a few minutes ago, she had humiliated and despised Lin Yi, and that it would be difficult for him to change his mind. Sissy replies that she has been with him for years, and that he would definitely forgive her if she acts like a poor thing. Sissy's friend says she is jealous of her and that she doesn't find a man as good in life as Sissy is. Sissy responds by saying, "Don't worry, when he and I get back, I'll take you for a ride in the Pagani." Sounds of footsteps and laughter coming from Sissy's back were heard. She turns around and sees Lin Yi and Gu Jingshua side by side, smiling at each other. Sissy runs to Lin, saying, "Dear, is she your secretary? Let me take care of your business from now on." Lin is startled. and Gu Jingshua doesn't seem to understand what is happening. Lin, with an angry face, tells Sissy that it's none of her business who this girl is. Sissy, pretending to be sad and crying, asks Lin if after all these years of dating, he really stopped loving her. She continues questioning Lin, wanting to know if he has forgotten all the joys that the two of them had together. And even though this girl next to him has a better body than hers, her skills are not as good. Gu Jingshua touches Lin. He is startled and looks at her. Gu Jingshua says, "What do you mean my skills are not as good as yours? Just now he told me that I'm better than his ex-girlfriend." Lin Yi wastes no time. Crazy is crazy. Lin grabs Gu Jingshua's waist and pulls her towards him. Lin, looking at her in a romantic and perverted way, says, "Not only does she have great ability, she also has great flexibility." Sissy and her friend look at the two in utter amazement, while Gu Jingshua looks at him in surprise. Lin leaves with Gu, telling Sissy that if she has nothing else to say, they have to go out on a date. Sissy despairs, asking Lin not to go and that she is willing to be his lover. She asks that for all these years of relationship, he must still love her. Furious, Lin, almost on fire with anger, turns around and says, "What would I love about you? The part about you not washing your hair, your horrible personality, or that you love vanity and cheating? Lin, Sissy, go away. You have no more chances with me, and don't come back. You disgust me." Sissy falls to the ground, destroyed by Lin's words, while he and Gu leave. Sissy's friend looks at her without knowing what to do. In the parking lot, Lin asks Gu where she is going. She responds, saying it is to the Fairview Hotel where her high-class classmate is getting married. She apologizes to Lin for bothering him. Lin Yi says it's okay and she just helped him too. The two leave for the Fairview Hotel. In front of the hotel, 3 women are waiting for Jingshu. One of them asks what's wrong with Jingshu, if she is taking too long, if she got a rich boyfriend, and if they are still on the final set. Another woman says that she looks different, and that the other day her boyfriend had given her a new Mercedes. Soon the other one says not to listen to her. What kind of rich person could Gu know? Everyone's boyfriends are rich, and when they go out, they have a lot of fun. No man would pick her up and pick her up. She must be jealous and is lying to them. In the distance, you can hear the roar of the Pagani's engine, which soon arrives and stops in front of the hotel where the 3 were complaining about Gu Jingshua. She gets out of the car, completely beautiful, and one of those who were talking bad about her says excitedly, "Jingshu, I can't believe you got a boyfriend with a Pagani. Wonderful." Gu goes to Lin's car window and tells him that she had helped him with his ex. Now it's his turn to help her with her friends. Lin goes out the window a little and says out loud, "Honey, have fun today." In the background, the building where Lin Yu was renting a room to live appears. The owner, Zhang Jingjing's daughter, smiles and says that he only owes 10 days' rent. She shouldn't be nervous about that and that she just had to wait a few more days. There was no need to rush Lin Yi. She takes away Miss Wu Jinlin's cell phone. Mrs. Wu gets angry, saying that he might run away and that she shouldn't think of him like that. She will be a civil servant and he is not even a salaryman anymore. The door of the building starts to move. Zhang looks back and sees Lin entering through it. Lin tells Mrs. Wu that he won't be there anymore, and that he came to say goodbye to them, and that he will leave as soon as he packs his things. Zhang is slightly startled and Mrs. Wu is furious. He owes her the rent and that he will only leave when he pays what he owes. Lin smiles and says that she misunderstood. He transfers a good amount of money to Mrs. Wu's account for her, double the amount he owed in rent. Mrs. Wu is surprised. What does he mean he gave her all this? Lin explains that it's an apology for being late on the rent. Lin goes up to his old room. After packing his things and putting them in suitcases, Mrs. Wu and Zhang accompany him. Mrs. Wu asks Lin why he is moving out of nowhere, and he replies that he is a blah-blah driver, and that it's not that bad and aims for something bigger than that. Zhang asks Lin to help him with the bags. When going downstairs, Mrs. Wu, still suspicious, tells herself that she will take a closer look at him. thinking he could steal something from her. As they leave the building, Mrs. Wu is impressed by the supercar that is parked in front of the building. Mrs. Wu asks Lin where his car was because she can't see it. Lin takes out the Pagani's key and says, "I don't drive that car anymore, now I drive this one." Lin presses the button to open the supercar door and asks Zhang to put things in the car. Mrs. Wu is surprised and asks Lin if he wasn't a salaryman and since when did he become so rich. Zhang is impressed and happy to see Lin being a rich man. Lin gets in the car and looks at the two, telling them that he stopped pretending he was working to experience a poor life and that he was actually a rich young man. Lin leaves with the supercar, leaving Zhang and Madame Wu not knowing what to say. Zhang asks his mother why she doesn't like Lin Yi, just because he was poor. But now he's rich, so she can. Mrs. Wu cuts Zhang's sentence and pulls the girl's ear, telling her to stop thinking about it. Lin Yi wasn't good enough for her. Now she's not good enough for him and tells her to go home and study. At the Peninsula Hotel, Lin's secretary gives him the presidential suite. Lin asks him to prepare the food and take it to his room as he hasn't eaten properly all day. After filling his belly with food, where even his head grew larger than his body, Lin says it looked great for a 5-star hotel. Lin's cell phone vibrates. It was a message from Miss Jai, asking him to take her home. She was leaving Aru, so she tells him to wait for her at the door. Lin responds, saying yes, and that he will arrive in 30 minutes. Arriving at the place, he sees Miss Jai waving at him. She gets in the car and Lin asks her if she would like to order first. Miss Jai doesn't understand and asks, what request? Lin smiles and says it's blah blah's request. If she doesn't ask, he won't make any money and will have to drink Xifen liquor, a cheap drink from China. Miss Jai smiles and says she will place the order. Miss Jai looks at Lin and reflects on what Lin did before driving a supercar. He was able to be the company's best seller, and he was fired anyway. It's understandable that he tries to be the best in the app too. But since someone so committed was fired, she wonders, there must be something behind the scenes that she intends to investigate. The lady says she ordered the ride on the app, and it's ready. Lady Ling appears on Lin's shoulder and tells him not to worry about it. She can't see Lady Ling, only Lin. Lady Ling says that the girl in the passenger seat is very beautiful, and the system gave Miss Jai a rating of 85 because she is very beautiful. Lady Ling congratulates Lin Ye and says that he managed to complete the second request on the app and a new quest has been started. The new quest is, transport 2 beautiful women with scores above 85. Lin received 10,000 proficiency points and is 50% of the task completed. Lady Ling goes to Lin's lap and says what kind of beauty can be considered above 85. She gave a hint, a beautiful woman like Jai Qingyan. Lin had been standing there all this time listening to Lady Ling's explanation that he forgot to take Miss Jai home. Jai Qingyan, what happened? Won't you take me home? Is something wrong? It seems like you are having a harder time than me. Lin Yi is momentarily taken aback and asks what kind of difficult time she could go through. Would it be something personal or business? Jai explains that it's something commercial. She has an event to hold on behalf of the company, but none of the 5-star hotels are available, and she should worry about that to avoid problems. Ling Yi has an idea and tells Miss Jai that she could go to the Peninsula Hotel to ask them for a reservation. Jai smiles and tells Lin that this is ridiculous. It's a super hotel and they won't accept it. She's not afraid to spend money, but the hotel is very popular with many people and it would be almost impossible to get a reservation. Lin, smiling, says that this is not true. Life surprises with many things and just like she met him, maybe she will achieve something if she goes there. Jai smiles at him and shows that she felt happy with what he said. He really is good with words, and he convinced her. She could change the route and go to the Peninsula Hotel. Lin quickly changes the direction of the car, and as he does so, Miss Jai says that she won't pay him the extra for changing the route if he couldn't get a deal with the hotel. So Lin asks, what will she do if she gets the deal? Jai asks him what he wants as a reward for making her have a deal with the hotel. Lin smiles pervertedly at her and says that if she gets the deal, she must do 10 squats for him. Miss Jai gets scared and says she doesn't know what that is. Linyi asks her to look online to find out what it means. When she sees what the S squat means, she is embarrassed, saying it is something very embarrassing. Jai thinks to herself that she had called the Peninsula Hotel before, but they said there was no reservation available. And then she agrees to do the squats for Lin, and she says it's just an S squat and just one, nothing more. Arriving at the hotel, the two stay at the reception and Jai talks to the attendant, wanting to speak to the manager Wang Jianlong. The receptionist smiles when she sees the two and says that she will inform the manager soon. In her thoughts, she wonders if this is the new love that the boss found by pretending to be poor. She is prettier than the scandalous ex, but she needs to call the manager first instead of thinking about it. When the manager arrives, he welcomes Miss Jai and apologizes for not having received them sooner. Miss Jai explains to him that she would like to reserve the hotel's auditorium, and the manager promptly says yes when he sees Lin Yi signaling okay behind her, thus convincing the manager to give her access. Jai is extremely happy with this. This reservation freed her from huge problems, and now she can rest assured. She tells manager Wang that she will complete the wind in 10 days. Returning to the car, she comments to Lin that he was really right. She had a surprise with that, and he tells her that life does have huge surprises, but soon changes the subject and asks her to fulfill the agreement she had made with him. Jai is very embarrassed, asking Lin if he still remembers that. But anyway, she gave her word, and as president of the Sunrise Group, she must keep it. So Lin, almost taking off Jai's seat belt, making her even more nervous and making her ask what he was doing. They're still in the car, and they could just go to her house and talk about it. Lin said it could be in the car. Jai says it's too small there, and they'd better go to her house. Lin accepts and quickly heads there. Jai is scared, wondering why he is so excited just for a squat. Arriving at Jai's house in Yunchi Villa, they enter her room. Jai holds on to a chair and asks Lin if he wants this now. Lin Yi tells her to hurry as he is busy tonight and can't take long. Jai is afraid of this, telling Lin that she had never done this before, and that he shouldn't complain if she didn't do well. Lin excitedly says he won't complain. Then Jai separates her legs wide, looks at Lin and squats in front of him, showing her panties. Lin is amazed by this, so amazed that he starts to bleed from his nose. Jai seems to be enjoying what she is doing and is quite embarrassed by it. But suddenly, Jai's father appears at the door, saying, "What are you doing?" Jai and Lin look desperately at the door, seeing Jai's father close it with a look of astonishment. Jai, looking scared and very embarrassed, asks her father what he was doing there. He stops in front of his daughter without saying anything, and the tension grows greater with every second between the three of them. Jai's father says, "What do you mean I shouldn't be here? Should I be under something watching you?" Jai Qingyan, trying to fix what had been done, tells him that he had misunderstood and that Lin was her yoga instructor. Lin, looking completely disappointed by the situation, tells himself that the old man arrived at a bad time. Jai's father asks her if she thinks he's stupid since when does a yoga instructor watch a woman squat in front of him? As far as he knows, they are on the side showing the movements. Jai becomes even more desperate, seeing that the lie came to nothing. She tries again to say that Lin is a yoga instructor, but one who only gives guidance and does nothing more than that. Jai's father gets tired of this lie. He tells her to stay away because he has something to talk to Lin. Lin is embarrassed and thinks to himself that it must be a great profession if only there was one that only focused on women's behinds. Jai's father sits next to Lin with a sinister aura that makes Lin scared. He asks, "Young man, what is your name, and what do you do for a living?" Lin responds by saying his name and that he is a blah-blah driver. Jai's father tells him with fear in his eyes, "What kind of car would a blah-blah driver have to drive to make his daughter interested in him?" Lin says he's right. but he's a super sports car driver. Jai's dad puts his hand on Lin's shoulder and confirms that the limited edition Pagani is his. Then he calls him a brat and says he's much better than those who just eat and drink or have fun out there, really good. So he entrusts his daughter to Lin. Lin wonders he just saw a man's daughter show off sexily for him and is already forcing him to be his son-in-law. Jai interrupts the two, saying that they don't have that kind of relationship. Jai's father says that he doesn't understand young people, but the two of them can go to Grandpa Quigyan's birthday together and let the family see Lin to meet him too. Leaving the room, Jai's father tells them to continue, not to let this old man ruin the couple's fun. Then Jai sits next to Lin, and the two see the old man leaving the room with a kind of bad expression. Jai tells Lin that their father got it wrong. Lin quickly jumps on Jai, saying that this misunderstanding is great, so they can continue. He gets on top of Jai, holding her while he fits into her body. Jai clearly liked what Lin was asking and asked what they would continue since it was just a misunderstanding. Lin lowers his hand to Jai's ass, squeezing it and saying that when she finishes the squats, it will be even better with what he is going to do. Jai pushes Lin away, very ashamed of what happened. Lin tells her, trying to deceive her, by saying that gymnastics favors the set of muscles in the butt. Jai blushes and thinks to herself if he was really talking about the squat movements. She thought he was going to take off her clothes. Lin's cell phone rings. It's a message from his old sales job saying, "Lin Yi, we are sad to see you leave, so we decided to have dinner at a restaurant called Yipanju in the evening as a farewell to you." Lin says goodbye to Jai and tells her that he has things to do and that they will continue at another time. Jai Kingyan says, "Huh, you, get out of here, you rascal." Lin goes to the restaurant and entering the reserved room, he sees Wang Ying calling him to sit down. Wang says that he is not saying that he gave up impulsively, but with his level, he would have been promoted to sales director in no time. Then two young men at the table look with a completely defiant and mocking look. They are Huang Yaowei and Lai Jiangdong. Huang tells Wang that this is not true. His performance is not bad compared to Lin, and who said that the sales director position should go to Lin Yi. Wang angrily says that Lin Yi's performance is better than Huang's. The sales director position was naturally his. Huang laughs and humiliates Lin, saying that it was worthless since he was fired. Huang goes on to say that he heard that his friend Lai Jiangdong's appointment was coming soon, so there was no worry, and they should toast Lai Jiangdong for such an achievement. Lai Jiangdong says not to be like that, even though he will soon be head of the sales department. They are there for Lin, and that's why he shouldn't be the center of attention. Lin Yi loudly says, "Because I feel like you guys aren't here to see me, but rather to brag and show off." Jiangdong says that's not true. They're there with good intentions and asks Lin what his plans are since the city is huge. He could blend in and go back to being a salesman again. Huang wastes no time and humiliates Lin again, now saying that he was an orphan and has no home and nowhere to return. Jiangdong grabs a glass of drink and says he knows a real estate owner in his neighborhood and asks Lin if he doesn't feel like going to his house to show him the facades. Lin, getting visibly angrier, says that he doesn't need to. He already has a job and that he is a driver for blah blah and that he drove there and won't drink. A restaurant employee arrives, interrupting the conversation, asking if anyone there owns the Pagani parked under the building. Lin asks what's wrong with the Pagani, and the employee says that it's blocking other cars from passing because it's too big. Huang, Jiangdong, and another guy look out the window impressed with the car, saying that it was worth more than 20 million, and that it is an incredible Pagani. Huang humiliates Lin once again by telling him to lower the ball, and that the car was a Pagani and not Lin's ordinary old car. Lin pulls the Pagani's key out of his pocket and tells Huang that the parked Pagani they were praising is his, so he has to ask yes because the car is his. Huang and another boy don't know what to say. Jiangdong, trying to fix what he had done, asked if it was really true. Lin is an orphan. Where did he get so much money for a supercar like that? Linye, already fed up with the humiliations he was suffering, with a look of pure hatred, says, "An orphan can't have money, you trash." Lin tells Mrs. Wang that she wouldn't eat that food and that she would take Mrs. Wang home. She readily accepts and asks everyone for permission. Jiangdong holds Lin's hand and asks Lin to wait, and in a desperate attempt, seeing Lin's social position, says, "Big brother, don't leave so quickly, it's all my fault, I'm sorry, please forgive me." Lin, burning with hatred, pulls his hand and says to Jiangdong, "No, you're going to be a director. There's no need to ask for forgiveness, right?" Lin left with Mrs. Wang and let everyone watch them leave in the Pagani through the building's window. Mrs. Wang was amazed by this and asks Lin, calling him by his last name, saying that she spent a lot of time working with him and didn't know that he was extremely rich. So Lin lies, saying that it is an inheritance and that he doesn't show that he is rich until it is really necessary. Then Mrs. Wang continues to ask if it was really true that he was a blah-blah driver. So excitedly, he pulls out his cell phone and answers yes. Then asks if she would like to go for a race with him. Then Mrs. Wang says she will do it since he asked. How could she refuse? Lady Ling's system warns that after scanning, Lady Wang's total score is 84, and she did not meet the requirements to complete the secondary quest. Lin is amazed and wonders how a woman as beautiful as Mrs. Wang didn't earn more than 85 points. Then Lin has an idea, seeing that Mrs. Wang is very beautiful and that she was worth a better grade. He stares at her. Mrs. Wang asks Lin what he is looking at, so he asks her if she knows any way how to increase a woman's charm. She responds that to enhance charm is not difficult, she just needs to become more attractive. Then Lin asks what she does to increase the charm. Mrs. Wang takes her bag and takes out 2 pantyhose and starts putting them in the car next to Lin. She crosses her legs and lets him see her completely and asks him what he thinks. Lin asks the system to rescan Mrs. Wang, impressed by how much more attractive she has become just by doing so. The system says that her score is 85, which met the quest requirements, and 15% of his driving career is complete. He got a new reward, a villa in Kyushu. The system asked him to find the sales manager to receive the villa. Lin is super excited about what he received. He just got a villa full of houses in a very rich place. Arriving at Mrs. Wang's house, she asked him if he wanted to go up with her to chat. Her husband was away, and they would be completely alone. The woman is married and wants to have sex with her new man. Look at her audacity. "I'm going to buy a Chevette and go after half a world of women." Lin apologizes to Mrs. Wang and puts his hand on her thigh and asks if it could be another day. Mrs. Wang, upset at being rejected, takes Lin's hand off her thigh, saying that it was a bummer. She leaves and says that they can talk later. Lin agrees and leaves. The next day, Lin goes to the Kyushu sales department to pick up the deeds for the villa he received as a prize. Zhang Menju, a former colleague of Lin's, sees him enter the door and asks, "Lin Yi, what are you doing here?" Lin, somewhat embarrassed, begins to explain that he came to see the sales manager to receive the deed to his property. Menju pushes Lin, telling him to stop for free, saying that each of these properties cost over $800 million and that he could never buy one of these. In the background, the 2 hear a woman asking what Menju was doing. It was sales manager Wang Hui. She tells Menju to stay away and that she will take care of her later. Hui touches Lin's arm, squeezing it, asking if he really was Lord Linyi. Menju tells manager Hui not to waste time with Lin, as he was an orphan and was an old colleague and could never buy a property like that. Manager Hui ignores Menju and introduces herself to Lin, and she will present the properties he acquired. Manager Hui gets tired of Menju's insistence and asks her what she's talking about. Immediately, Manager Hui fires Menju for her lack of appropriate behavior and tells her to get a paycheck for her dismissal and that she is never to appear at the company again. Menju still insists on humiliating Lin, saying that she knows everything about him. Manager Hui gets tired and says that she knows absolutely nothing. as Lin had bought 9 villas in Kyushu Court, and even so, knowing everything, she still claims to be Lin's colleague. Manju falls to the ground in amazement, asking if there really were 9 villas, an absurd amount of money that she had never imagined having. Lin, happy to see that he was no longer poor, realized that it was not just the money that the system gave him, but the power to humiliate those who humiliated him before. Manager Huey apologizes for the inconvenience that Manju had caused them, claiming that she had caused a lot of trouble due to her mental instability and that this should be a good experience for Lin and not an unpleasant one. Lin said everything is fine and then asks for the deeds to his villas. 2 girls bring the deeds and give them to Lin. As he gets into the car and puts the deeds aside, Lin receives a message from Mrs. Wang saying that the HR department fired Jiangdong and Lily Yu, the same 2 who humiliated Lin at the restaurant at the farewell dinner. Lin finds it strange because this dismissal was very quick and that there was something wrong, so Lin asks Jai via message if she was the one who fired them both. She replies that news travels fast and that yes, she had fired them both because she had sought the reason they fired Lin and saw that they were both at fault for this, out of pure envy of Lin Yi's sales success. Lin asks Jai what happened to Jiangdong's promised position as sales manager. Jai leaves that up to Lin Yi to decide. Then he explains to Jai that he hasn't been doing so well with blah blah's part-time job and indicates Miss Wang Ying as a great choice for this position. Jai said she would think about it and asks Lin to pick her up from the office as her car has not yet been repaired. He tells her that he is her chauffeur and is at her service. Arriving at the Sunrise Company office, Lady Ling's system notifies her that there is a new quest. He has to obtain a 5-star rating, and upon completing this, he gains 200,000 proficiency points and 25% of the profession will be completed. Lin asks Jai to give him a 5-star rating. She is reluctant and says she will exchange that rating for the squats she owes him. Lin stands in front of Jai. She asks Lin what he's doing and says that if that's the case, he won't accept it, and that she still owes him 9 squats. Jai calls him a pervert, and when getting out of the car she finds Mrs. Wang. She saw Lin in a panic and soon left, explaining to her that it was just a blah-blah driver who found Miss Jai and went for a run. Mrs. Wang finds her strange. I didn't say anything, but he seemed very nervous. Mrs. Wang then deduces that the 2 of them are going out together and that it's no wonder that the 2 guys who humiliated Lin were fired and he didn't want to be alone with her at home. Unfortunately, she seems to have no chance of being with Lin. The married woman is Cisadilla KLKL Cisadilla L Cisadilla KL Cisadilla TMNC. Jai calls Mrs. Wang, saying that they are late, and soon the 2 leave together. Jai ended up giving Lin a 5-star review, and he says that she really seems to have a sharp tongue. Lin gets a ride request at a house called Tianyi, and he sees that it's not too far away. He accepts the ride and soon receives a message from the passenger asking how old he is. Lin replies that he is 24 years old. He receives an offer to pretend to be her boyfriend, and then she gives him 5 stars. Lin accepts and goes to Tianyi's house. He knocks on the door, and a blonde girl opens it. It's Xiao Yu, a famous streamer. She is enchanted by Lin's beauty, saying that he has a very good appearance, better than the interns that she hires. Xiao's mother asks if he is her daughter's boyfriend, and he says yes, and that his name is Lin Yi. Xiao's father says that he seems to be a very spirited young man and asks him what he does for a living. Lin says he is a blah-blah driver. Xiao's parents are disgusted, asking him if he was really the driver of this. Xiao lies to her parents, saying that all the jewelry she received was from Lin and that he was saving money to have his own business. Xiao's father says that Lin doesn't understand any of this and that this kind of thing goes very wrong since 9 out of 10 startup entrepreneurs fail, and asks if she wanted to become a widow early. Xiao's mother on the side only confirms what her husband says. Xiao cuts the subject in the middle by asking if her parents wouldn't go to his friend's party as guests. They say yes, and that it's about time. Zio lies, saying that she asked Lin to take her parents to the party and that after that, they would go shopping together. Lin cuts the conversation in the middle, saying that her vehicle only has capacity for 2 people and that her parents should go another way. Zio and his parents are incredulous, thinking it would be a motorbike, and when they go out with Lin and Zio outside, Zio's father gets angry, thinking that his daughter touched a random motorcyclist. Zio's mother says that when the others find out who she is with, they're going to ridicule the family. Lin takes the Pagani key out of his pocket and presses the button to open the passenger door. Zio and his parents are amazed. Zio's father comments that this is a very expensive super sports car. Zio asks Lin if this car is really his, and Lin, getting in the car, says yes and asks her to hurry. Zio's parents immediately change their view of Lin and tell her to get in so as not to keep him waiting. Lin asks which mall she would like to go to. Zio replies that it is Times Square and comments that Lin's car is extremely beautiful. As Zio is a streamer, she asks Lin to let her do a live with Lin's supercar. Lin allows it and asks her to give him 5 stars later. Zio starts doing a live in Lin's car, with several comments asking who she was with and what car she was driving, as it was an extremely expensive car, while others asked if she was selling her body to have one like that with her. She responds to the negative comments by saying that he was just a driver for blah blah, but in her thoughts, she says that it wouldn't be bad for her to sell her body to him if he was willing to pay. Arriving at the mall, Zio gets out of the car and says, 5-star review, thank you, handsome, see you next time. Lady Ling appears on Lin's lap and congratulates him for completing the quest, and that he has gained 200,000 proficiency points. Career completion is at 35%, and he has received a reward, a Zhonghai International Circuit Track, Master Driving. Lin, trying to grab Lady Ling's waist and part of her ass, thinks to himself that it's the best clue in the world besides Abu Dhabi's. Lin asks Zio to wait for a moment. He asks her for help changing his cell phone since she knew the stores there. She says she will take him. Lin and Zio are at the mall. Zio shows Lin to the people on live while he chooses a cell phone. She asks him if he is sure about this, as this cell phone is very expensive, and there are cheaper ones on the internet. Lin doesn't care about that. He touches her face while stating that everything is fine, and since he's there, he's going to buy it anyway. The seller packs the new cell phone box and offers Lin a cell phone case. Lin refuses to want the case because he says he doesn't like using it. The seller pulls out several cases, insisting on the sale. Lin says he doesn't want any cases, so he says that his intention is to buy several cell phones. If one breaks, he will have others, and then asks the seller to bring 5 of each color of the cell phone and asks to pack them all together. The incredulous seller says there are 20 units and asks if Lin is sure. Lin says yes and also asks for a computer to take away. Zio is impressed and says that this is a lot of money. By showing Lin making these purchases, the live's views will reach 5 million people, 5 times more than she had already achieved. Then Zio realizes that going live and spending money live is the easiest way to get popularity. The people on the live show are wondering if Lin is Zio's friend or boyfriend. As they leave the store, Zio asks Lin if he wants anything else, and when he sees a watch store, he says he wants to buy one. Upon arriving at the store, the 2 attendants see that customers were coming, and soon their co-worker announces that there are people coming. The attendant tells the other to contain her excitement, as there is a girl doing a live broadcast showing off the wealth she doesn't have. The second attendant says that it's very profitable to be a streamer nowadays, but she counters, cutting her colleague's sentence in the middle, claiming that it's not like buying lipstick and that they are Zhongxigtan, and there's no way a streamer can buy something at a store where only the super rich came to her. The attendant drools over her colleague, saying that she is the greatest evaluator of people. Lin and Zio look at the watch display. Zio is surprised by the price of each watch, and they can only be purchased in cash. Lin asks the owner to get a watch like that so he can observe it. The other attendant, trying to mislead Lin and Zio, says that they can only see the watches after purchasing. Lin is surprised by this. No store charges just to take a look. Zio asks the attendant how people are going to buy if they can't even see the product up close. In the background, a short, blond man with a gold chain around his neck arrives with a girl on his side, calling the attendant. The attendant who was talking to Lin and Zio runs to them, leaving the two alone. Attendant: Mr. and Mrs. Lin, I haven't seen you in a long time. How can I help you? Soon Mrs. Lin notices a watch made entirely of gold and tells her husband to take a look at it. Her eyes light up when she sees the watch and says she wants it as a birthday present. Unlike the treatment she gave Lin Yi and Zio, the attendant takes someone else's watch and shows it to Mrs. Lin. Lin Yi and Zio see the owner's attitude from afar, so Zio wonders what is going on. The live comments talk a lot about that watch as it is one of the most expensive of the year. Zio is scared by this information. Lin Yi stands in front of Zio, visibly irritated by the situation. He says, "What's going on here? We are all customers. You should treat everyone the same, right?" Zio is surprised to see Lin's positioning, but soon everything gets worse. The attendant, with a disdainful face, says she's sorry, but the services they offer are only for high-level customers and hopes they understand. Lin retorts by saying that she understands what she's getting at. She's just a fool who thinks she's judging people from above with the eyes of a bitch. The attendant is incredulous at what Lin Yi said. Then Lin is interrupted by Zio saying that these luxury stores are only made by snobs and that he shouldn't be mad. The attendant continues to humiliate them behind their backs. For her, they are just two clown streamers with no future, and it was too much to have let them in. If they had gone to another store, Balfata, they would have already been expelled. Mr. and Mrs. Lin smile at the situation and the attendant's words. Zio pulls Lin's arm, and he, visibly irritated, takes his arm out of her hands. Even so, she asks him to forget it, and that they don't need to buy there. They go to another store, Balfata, that the attendant at the other location had mentioned. Unlike the previous treatment, they were well received by a young girl with a red bow around her neck, welcoming them and offering to help. Lin Yi looks at Zio and says that he is not familiar with this side of the mall, and she says the same but that she will ask the live chat what they can do. The live chat, making fun of Lin and Zio's faces, thinking that he didn't have money for anything, recommended a watch from the 175th anniversary edition, Patek Philippe. The attendant is surprised because it's a horrible thing to say to two people as a form of humiliation, and she looks horrified when she hears it. The live chat continues to humiliate the two, claiming that they don't have the money for it. Some talk about the sense of superiority they have just for having bought cell phones. Another says that he can't buy that watch even if he drives that Pagani. Lin smiles, to Zio's surprise, who feels uncomfortable with the hate received. She tells him not to worry as she will ban these people from the live. Lin gets excited and orders exactly what the chat asked for, the 175th anniversary Patek Philippe watch. Zio is surprised by this, and the store attendants were even more surprised when they heard what Lin said to them. The attendant asks if he is sure he wants that watch, but Lin pulls a black card from his pocket and asks if it would be possible to bring it. The attendants, seeing Lin's black card, are euphoric. Each one says a different thing. Of course, yes, that they will personally leave it in Lin's hands, and that the watch is out of stock and will bring one straight from Europe. Zio asks one of the attendants if that big store doesn't have a stock, but the attendant explains that there are only 6 of these watches in the world, and only one was designated for China. There are none in stock in the entire country. Immediately, the news spread throughout the mall. People found out about the purchase of the super rare watch, and the attendant who humiliated Lin and Zio saw a different movement in the place. People were talking about buying it from Lin. Something so luxurious should be bought by some filthy rich tycoon. Everyone there ran to the store where Lin and Zio were. The attendant was behind other employees from other stores, and unlike them, she was extremely confused. It's him. Lin and Zio leave the store. Lin Yi is very excited about the purchase he had made, and Zio continued on her live. But as they passed through the small crowd, the attendant who had humiliated Lin and Zio took the lead. Attendant: Sir, we also have many new models. Why don't you come to our store? Lin looked at her with contempt and said, No, I'm too poor for your store's level. The attendant, seeing the two leave without even looking back, says she was wrong and falls to the floor apologizing. It seems she doesn't have a good judgment about people after all. She cries and slaps herself in the face, telling herself that she shouldn't analyze people wrong. She lost a lot of commissions because of that. Lin and Zio go back to the car, and Lin presents Zio with one of the super cell phones he had bought. He smiles and apologizes for making her waste time with him shopping. Zio is momentarily surprised, but looking at him with a grateful look and accepting the gift. She thanks him and says it was a great day. Lin leaves in his supercar, and Zio, watching him leave, comments, How can there be such a good, rich and gentlemanly man? If only he was really my boyfriend. Lin goes to the international racetrack that won the lady system to claim the place, and when he is attended to, one of the girls at reception says that the track is closed to the public due to a VIP client. Lin comments that he is not there to run or play. He wants to see the manager and tells them to inform him that Lin Yi has arrived. The girl smiles and says she will inform him of his arrival, but soon the door opens at once, and a snobbish man with 3 friends arrives. It's Kin Han. He asks what was happening there. That lane was close to him, and he didn't want any outsiders entering the place he reserved. Lin is called by another attendant asking to accompany her to the manager Zhu of the racetrack, while another attendant explains that the gentleman is there to see the manager and that he will not use the racetrack. Lin looks back suspiciously but continues following the attendant. He comments to her, asking who that guy is and if this whole track was really closed to him. She says yes and asks if he doesn't know him. He is Kin Han, famous, and almost no one in Zhanghai City dares to mess with him. When saying this, the girl seems not to be comfortable with that situation, but Lin just looks at her directly. They pass through a long corridor and arrive at Manager Zhu's office. The attendant informs him that Mr. Lin Yi had just arrived. Zhu Heito looks at Lin Yi excitedly and calls the attendant by name, Zio Zhao, and asks her to get some water for General Manager Lin Yi. She seems confused by the situation. General Manager? Manager Zhu excitedly responds to Zio Zhao that Lin Yi has completely bought the racetrack, and from now on, he is his new boss. Manager Zhu lets Lin Yi sit at the table, and then gives him a stack of documents to look at how the company's finances are going. But Lin says that he doesn't need to, and that they just have to continue working in the same way that was already excellent. Manager Zhu asks Lin to accompany him. He wants to show Lin the entire track and asks him if he doesn't want to go for a ride since he had bought the entire track, and it would be a good idea to race on it a little. Lin accepts and tells someone to bring his car to the track. Getting very close, he sees 3 sports cars in a race. It was Kin Han and his friends. He stops in the middle of the race when he sees Lin and Zhu, gets down in the middle of the track, and says, Gordo Zhu, what are you doing? I said the track is mine today. Do you want to die? Zhu replies that he would never dare to do that to Kin Han, and that the man behind him is Lin Yi, the owner of the track. Kin Han and his 4 friends are shocked by that information. What? Lin, upon seeing Kin Han's disrespect, tells Manager Zhu that he wants to take a few laps on the track and that he was supposed to get those strangers off his property, and if they thought it was bad, they could return all the money for renting the track. Kin Han doesn't believe what Lin said, and Zhu is scared by Lin Yi's positioning. So Kin Han pulls out a pack of cigarettes and offers it to Lin Yi, who takes one. Kin Han, friend, you are really interesting. No one has ever treated me this way, let alone kicked me out of a place. Why don't you and I race, and the winner stays on the track? Lin responds that it won't happen. Kin insists and says that although he is known for running very well, he will give Lin a 10-second advantage and that he shouldn't be a coward. While saying this, Kin lights a lighter and the cigarette that Lin took from his pack. Lin accepts and says that 2 laps is what he needs and that his hands itch to test the speed of his car on a racetrack. Kin asks Lin where his car is. He offers Lin that he can change his car if his Kin's is too good for Linyi. But soon the limited edition Pagani is seen in the distance, and Kin is incredulous at that, asking if it really was Lin's car. Lin says yes, it's not that expensive, but it's better than his and asks Kin if he's feeling intimidated by that car. Kin arrogantly responds that he spent more than 3 million on the car to tune it and that he would never lose in terms of performance, even if it was for a limited edition Pagani. They get ready, stand at the starting line, and you can see the entire track from above. There are 2 laps, and whoever loses will have to leave the track. A beautiful woman starts the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. The 2 accelerate with all their might and leave the starting line very quickly. But something is happening. Manager Zhu notices that Kin slowed down the car to take the first turn, but Linyi continues accelerating. Linyi really wants to take that turn at that speed. It's almost impossible. Not even the best professional drivers can achieve this feat. If he doesn't slow down, it could cause an accident. Lin enters the curve at full speed and leaves everyone extremely scared. That was almost impossible to do, even for someone trained, but Lin won the race, and Lin's driving skills were more than incredible. The girl finishes the race, saying that it is incredible, and that Linyi really is awesome. As they get out of the cars, Kin shows Lin a deep respect, and he admits that he was defeated by Linyi and that now he is his new idol.